From Hollywood, it's time now for Edmund O'Brien as...
Johnny Dollar.
This is Mrs. Ernest Caldwell, Mr. Dollar.
Oh, yes, Mrs. Caldwell. I'm the investigator your insurance company has hired to look for your son.
Yes, I understood that from the message you left. Howard is dead, Mr. Dollar.
When did you learn this?
I don't have to learn. It's one of those things a mother feels. My son was a part of me. And when he died, I felt it.
Oh, I see. Well, an insurance company is bound to operate from a basis of facts, not intuition. If you're going to be in this afternoon, I'd like to drop by and talk to you about them.
Edmund O'Brien in another adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account. America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Britannia Life Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of my expenditures during investigation of the Howard Caldwell Matter. Expense account item 1, $6.50 transportation round trip between my Hartford apartment and the Caldwell country estate. From every angle, inside and out, the place looked more like a museum than a dwelling. And Mrs. Caldwell struck me as the mother of all the answers as to why boys leave home.
I don't know why Howard left. I simply can't understand it. No mother could have been more devoted than I. Except at school, I never left him alone for a moment. I made him share everything with me. I protected him and I advised him. And yet...
Yeah. Well, now let's get these facts in order. Name, Howard. Age 23. Left here for San Francisco, California about a year ago. What was he doing in San Francisco?
Oh, he was studying to be an artist. In a rather deceitful way. He knew I didn't approve. He told me he wanted to go to the coast to see a football game. Then he wired me that it had been delayed. And the next thing I knew, this letter arrived, saying that he'd met some people out there, that he didn't need any money, and that he'd enrolled in this art school. I didn't believe it. I knew he was in trouble then.
What's the name of the school?
The Orlando School of Art. I wrote and begged him to come back, and he answered that he thought it would be better if he didn't, as if he were being threatened.
Why would anybody threaten him?
Why, I don't know. He told me very little of what he was doing. That's why I knew he was in trouble, because we always shared everything. He'd never kept secrets from me.
I think you're exaggerating this thing, Mrs. Caldwell.
I tell you I'm not.
You haven't told me any one thing that
What should I think when he writes that I'll never see him again? When he tells me not to go to the police because it won't do any good? That he's gone to another life? Here's a letter. Read it for yourself.
The letter did say that. The date on it was a week old, and it went on to make other vague references to danger and death. But a statement that the mother had ignored came to my mind closest to the truth. Howard Caldwell had written, "If I had been mentally equipped for life as other people are, this wouldn't have happened, and I could have lived."
Britannia Life Insurance Company, Mr. Nathan's office.
This is Johnny Dollar. Is he in?
Oh, yes, Mr. Dollar. Just a second.
Well, Dollar, that was a quick trip. What do you think of Mrs. Caldwell?
Well, that's neither here nor there. How'd she happen to turn to you?
Her lawyer advised her to. We carry a big policy on the son. The lawyer told her that putting the problem in our lap is the best way to do it. And there was something about a letter advising her not to go to the police.
Yeah, I read it.
Well, we ordinarily don't do this sort of thing, as you know, but it's a matter of $200,000. Did it sound like suicide to you?
And it sounded vague. He's been writing his mother a lot of double talk that she's been interpreting in her own motherly way.
Uh-huh.
He was supposed to come home this summer and didn't. I don't know what to make of it. If you want to find out anything, you won't get it from her.
Could you go out to San Francisco?
Oh, sure, but let's not share this with Mrs. C. She'd probably beat me out there. Expense account item 2, $200 airfare and incidental costs, Hartford to San Francisco. Expense account item 3, 170 cab fare from my hotel, the Bellevue, to the last known address of Howard Caldwell. A brownstone in a row of brownstones on Taylor, a street that climbs one of San Francisco's 7 hills. The apartment house manager was in and would oblige.
He hasn't been here for a week and a half. I've been taking his mail up to his apartment, but his box gets so full they can't get any more in.
The apartment is still in his name?
He paid up 3 months in advance.
You mind if I look it over?
Well, I suppose it's all right if you're trying to help it. It's up here.
Mr. Caldwell say anything to you about leaving?
Well, no, he didn't. I hope there isn't any trouble. But you'd think he'd come for some of his clothes if there wasn't, wouldn't you?
They're still here?
I couldn't help noticing after he'd been gone so long, without a word.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, this is it. 22. After you.
Thanks.
There's all his mail on the table. I hope everything's all right. He's a nice, likable young man.
Know any of his friends?
Well, no, I don't. I expect he had some, though. He was out at night lots. He never came home drunk or anything, no.
Well, if you don't mind, I think I'll run through the place. I won't be long.
Well, I suppose it's all right as long as I'm here.
After I'd finished, I knew very little about Howard Caldwell that I hadn't already known. The letters on the table were, as to be expected, all from his mother. A drawer in a bedside table gave me something too odd to be ignored. 25 or 30 match folders, all from bars or restaurants, all empty of matches, and each marked in pencil with a date. The earliest, May 4th, 1950. The most recent, September 12th. A closet gave me a portfolio of sketches from various perspectives, and they looked like a brunette. Nothing else in the place seemed to point in any direction, so I copied the addresses on the match folders and helped myself to 3 of the most descriptive sketches. Expense account item 4, $1.30 cab fare to the Orlando School of Art.
How do you do? I'm Beatrice Orlando. Did you wish to see me?
Yes, I'm a private investigator from Hartford, Connecticut. I'm here trying to locate a student of yours.
Howard Caldwell.
That's right. You're fast.
Not at all. I take a personal interest in my student. It was so strange the way he just stopped coming to class. He was doing so nicely and seemed to enjoy his work. Is he in trouble?
I don't know. I wonder if you could tell me which of his classmates were personal friends of his.
Well, I don't think any of them were.
Here. Look at these.
Oh. Yes, that's Howard's work. Excellent, don't you think? And that model, she must be a gorgeous girl.
Isn't she one of your models?
I only wish she were. Remarkable, the lines and planes.
Yeah. Do you think she's real?
Drawn from life, of course. No wonder he didn't bother to make friends here.
Expense account item 5, $45, see enclosed bar tabs. That night, I started making the rounds of the addresses I'd copied from Howard Caldwell's collection of dated match folders. They led me from San Francisco's North Beach section to another area called the Mission, across the bay to the city of Oakland, and back to San Francisco. The only pattern I could set up was that none of the joints were worth remembering. They were neighborhood bars, as a rule, and the routine in each was about the same, except at the one called the stop sign.
Is the drink all right, mister?
Yeah, it's fine. Say, I wonder if you could help me.
How?
I'm looking for an old friend of mine. I understand he used to come into this bar. Here. Here's a photograph of him. Name's Howard.
No. No, I don't remember him. I got a mind for faces, too.
And then look at this. It's only a sketch. Have you ever seen a girl who looks like this?
It's a gag.
No, it isn't. Makes you think it would be.
You mean this is a drawing of a real dame?
That's right.
And for 10 or 20 bucks extra, I can have the genuine photograph to hang up behind my... Get out of here.
Wait a minute. Has somebody tried to sell you a deal like that?
You're the first, and I can tell you won't go over in this town.
I'm not trying to sell you anything.
Well, then go someplace else and don't try. I never saw the guy or the dame, and I don't expect to. Good night.
Hey, let me see a picture, will you?
Sorry, Mac. It's private.
Oh, wait a minute. Maybe I know who she is.
Why should you?
Because I know everybody that comes to this bar. If her boyfriend's name is Howard, I bet I know him.
That's what I said it was.
Did you say it was Caldwell?
Where can we talk?
Come on, outside.
You know where Caldwell is?
Yes, sucker, I know where he is. Keep it quiet.
Hey.
We'll both keep it quiet, huh? I'll take this out of your ribs if you play ball.
That's a deal.
Up to the corner, then, and across the street. Now across that parking lot. The yellow club coupe. Don't bother memorizing the license number. It's phony. Here he is.
How are you? I'm fine. Thanks for asking.
Get in the back. We could drive out toward the beach, JB. What do you think?
That's better than here. I'll swing over to Fulton and take that out.
How'd you get the addresses of these bars?
How did you find out about me?
We've been waiting for somebody to show up. Been watching his apartment. We saw you go in and then tailed you to that school.
Is Caldwell alive?
Yeah, but he won't stay that way if people start prying.
Why not?
Who hired you?
I'm a private investigator. I'm not supposed to tell people things like that.
We aren't getting any place, are we? Now, look, from where you sit, how is it going to hurt you to tell us? You're working for the old lady?
His insurance company. They carry a big policy on it.
Well, lay off, JB. It's not funny.
The devil it is. Stupid jerk.
Watch it, JB, will you? I've only got one thing to say, Dollar. Stop looking for them. Leave things the way they are. I'm giving you the best advice anybody could. Drop it. Go on home.
Can't do it. I'm stuck. You ought to understand that. It's my business. If I give up on one job, I'll never get another.
Yeah, I guess you got a point at that. Drive him back to his hotel, JB. It's Bellevue, isn't it?
Yeah, wait a minute. Yeah, what is it?
It's 5:30. The early edition seeing the streets.
What? Who is this?
You'll remember when you wake up. Go buy an Examiner. Page 1. Headlines.
Yes, sir.
Send me some coffee, will you? And the early Examiner.
Yes, sir. I think the coffee shop is just opening.
A couple of cigarettes later, room service arrived. The headline read, Syndicate Head Found Slain in Auto Trunk. Benjamin Miller, Western Gang Chief, shot to death. I didn't see how there could be any connection between a dead mobster and the Howard Caldwell matter. But that only proves how wrong an investigator can be.
In just a moment, we will return to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, starring Edmund O'Brien. But first, some more of radio's greatest stars check in at CBS The Stars address this Sunday night. The first you'll hear are Amos and Andy. Then, a little later this Sunday, we welcome Red Skelton back from summer vacation. With Joey Adams, Eve Arden, Jack Benny, and Corliss Archer already on hand to bring you great comedy, be sure you add Amos and Andy and Red Skelton to your Sunday night listening dates, starting this Sunday over most of these same CBS stations. And now, back to our star, Edmund O'Brien, and the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
The story under the headlines went on to explain that Benjamin Miller's body had been found in an abandoned car after a phone tip at 11:15 the preceding night. The chief had been shot to death approximately a week before. It was feared that an underworld war would be touched off by the killing, since Eastern operators allegedly had threatened to force Miller out of business on the West Coast. The police had decided to play a waiting game. No lead in all that. But on page 4, there was a picture. Ben Miller in happier days. At his side stood a brunette that matched the one in Caldwell's sketches point for point. Nora Rush, with an address on Ardmore Street in Los Angeles. Does this hotel have a travel agency?
It's only 6, sir, and they haven't opened, but maybe I could help.
Well, I want to leave for Los Angeles as quickly as I can. What plane is there?
Oh, I can tell you that. Just a moment, please. Sir,
Yeah.
United Airlines have a flight leaving in 45 minutes.
Can I make it?
It'll be close, sir. I could phone for you and get space if possible.
Oh, I'll thank you later, Angel. Just one more thing. If I get any calls, you don't know where I am, huh?
Yes, sir.
Expense account item 7, $5 cab fare and $5 tip for a taxi driver who got me to the airport in 20 minutes. Item 8, $20, United Airlines to Los Angeles. And item 9, same as 7, taxi trip to Nora Rush's Ardmore Street address. I arrived there at 9:15. She was still in a robe when she answered the door, but the trace of makeup, which was all she needed for her face, and the soft hairdo made me wonder if she was expecting me.
There's certainly no reason to be anything but truthful. Yes, I've been expecting you. Won't you come in, Mr. Dollar?
Thanks.
Come in here.
You have good friends in San Francisco.
Yes, I have. Very good friends. Just put your coat any place and sit down.
Thank you. Well, then I take it they've told you why I'm on the West Coast.
Yes. You've come to look for Howard Caldwell. There's coffee. Would you like some?
No, thanks. I've had plenty. Do you know where he is?
No, I don't. No, I don't know where he is. I don't know.
Oh, come on now. Stop that.
Why did you go? Why did you go?
That was the end of the test run. I rattled around the rest of the place for almost an hour while I waited for her to come out of the bedroom. I didn't feel like snooping, but I couldn't help seeing a framed photograph that had been hastily hidden under a mat on the piano. It was young Caldwell, but not the subdued, dead-faced kid in the picture I'd gotten at his Connecticut estate. Instead, a guy with some enthusiasm in his friendly eyes. I was in the kitchen drinking the coffee when she came out.
What are you doing?
Waiting for you?
Why don't you leave?
Well, if I did, somebody else just like me would show up. Maybe he'd make you unhappier than I do. That kind of a racket.
I sympathize with you.
You should. You put me on the defensive.
I hadn't noticed. How did I do that?
You started by posing for some sketches. And you're stronger in person.
You saw them?
Yeah. They're in my hotel room in San Francisco. Or at least, that's where I left them.
Who else saw them?
A few bartenders and his art teacher.
Oh, that little fool. Told me he destroyed them. Did you say bartenders?
Yeah. He had a match folder collection all dated from a series of nondescript hideaway-type bars.
Oh, how could he have been so stupid?
Could he have been in love?
Well, he didn't have to go out of his mind. He lied to me. He told me there was nothing to link us together.
What's the difference if there is?
Because Howard killed Ben Miller. And nobody will believe it now.
Why won't they believe it?
It was my gun.
Registered?
Yes.
Where is it?
Howard has it hidden. I loved him and all that. But the true story has... Oh, you've got to believe.
You haven't told me.
I will, Mr. Dollar. I have to sit down.
All right, come on, over here. How did you meet Caldwell?
I was going with Ben Miller. Not because I thought anything about him, but he was so powerful out here, and I'd just come from Chicago.
Caldwell?
Well, it was one of those parties. Some of the models from the Orlando school were invited just to fill out. It was Howard's school, and one of the girls had talked him into coming. That's when we met. There was something about him. I don't know.
This was in May, I take it.
I think so. Spring, anyway. He was supposed to go home for the summer and didn't. I'd meet him in these bars, and he'd come to my place when Ben was out of town. He wanted to sketch me, but that's not important. Ben saw me meet him and followed us to my apartment.
This was at your place? You had an apartment in San Francisco?
Yes. Ben hit me, and Howard went for the gun and killed him.
He knew where you kept the gun?
Yes.
Why?
Because,
How did he know?
in case he ever needed it.
Miller's body was found stuffed into the trunk of a car.
You don't believe me, do you?
Well, there are little things like how did he manage to get the body into the trunk of that car, and how did he manage to steal the car?
I'll tell you. He had help. Everybody knew that combination from the east was moving in on Ben and would kill him if they had to. So they've been trying to help Howard. And it was all right till you came out here.
Oh, that's a pretty good setup. Ben Miller would be checked off as a gang killing, the kind they so seldom get around to solving. When it cooled off, you could take up where you dropped him.
I didn't kill him.
A plural you. You're all in it. But I can't quite figure it.
What?
Why those two friends of yours who picked me up last night would go to bat for a worthless Eastern aristocrat.
They want to help him.
Why?
Well, because he's my friend. Why should anybody take a rap for killing a man like Ben Miller? You don't want him to die for it, do you?
Do you?
Of course not. We're trying to help him. What are you going to do?
Well, the Frisco police are combing the city for leads on the scene of the murder weapon, and a definite link between dead man and killer. I seem to be sitting on all three.
You aren't going to the police.
That depends on how fast you tell me where Caldwell is. I want to hear his version of the story.
I don't know where he is. I told you that.
Yeah, I know you did.
Wait now, please. Wait just a minute. Please. Just a minute, please.
Oh, will you stop it?
Just listen to me. I know what you think of me, and I know you don't believe me. But I wish you would, just for a little while.
How long?
An hour or so. My brothers are flying down. They'll be here by noon.
Brothers?
The men you met last night. I wish them before you do anything. It won't be a mistake.
I wish you had hit me over the head with something.
That's a funny thing to say.
Well, what I mean is that kind of trouble makes me mad enough to fight.
Oh, there they are, Johnny. I'll go.
Wait a minute. Sit down. We're back in
Johnny!
business again, gorgeous. Sorry. I'll let him
All right, go ahead, you stubborn jerk.
in. Come in. Where's the other one?
Stayed in Frisco. Sorry I couldn't get here faster, honey. Are you all right?
I'm all right, Al.
Did you tell them how it happened?
Yes.
She told me and we made a deal. I wouldn't phone the police until I talked to you. Still stands.
Can I get you anything, Al?
Yeah, a drink would help.
All right.
Look, Dollar. For some reason, my sister fell for this kid. I guess it was the first time in her life that something decent came along for her. He wanted to marry her. And it fell to pieces when Caldwell lost his head and shot Ben.
What really happened, Al?
Ben made a lot of threats and stirred up all the mud in Nora's life. She tried to stop him. He slugged her, and that was it.
Were you there?
No, I wasn't there, but that's what happened. Leave it alone, Dollar. Ben had the finger on him anyway. Why not let it cool off?
There are a number of reasons. Unfortunately, I'm burdened down with a vague but heavy thing called ethics. It says so on my license. Another thing, if I forget it, it makes me an accessory to the killing. But most important at the moment is the fact that I'm not sure that Caldwell is guilty.
Keep coming, Dollar.
It would make more sense if you were protecting your sister instead of that punk. Would you agree?
It's not true.
Stay out of it, honey.
Isn't that why all of you have been working so hard to keep me away from Caldwell? Because you don't want me to hear his pitch?
Okay, I'll take you to him. He's here in Los Angeles.
Al.
For the drinks. I'm giving ground, Dollar. What do I get from you?
You've already gotten it. I didn't call the police.
Somebody is going to blow your head off one of these times, Dollar. There's a car in the garage, honey. This is it. Upstairs.
Quite a come down for a scion type.
That's a good spot for him. You could live in this part of town for 100 years, and nobody would know who you were or what you were unless you wanted them to. Up front here. Howard. Howard. It's Al, Howard. Howard.
What about it, Al? What's this?
They told him not to leave.
No clothes. This is an empty room, Al.
This is where he was. You can check downstairs. He used the name Harris.
Save it, Al.
There's only one place he'll go, to Nora's.
I'll try the rest of this without you. You've got nothing but a mouthful of lies. I don't want any more of them. Come on, get out of my way. Caldwell here?
Yes, he's been here all morning. He came right after you did and hid outside. He's like a crazy man.
Where is he?
In the bedroom.
You stay here. My first sight of the all-important Howard Caldwell was not a pleasant one. He was face down on the bed, his head buried in a pillow, and his body shaking with sobs. It took 30 minutes of treatment, some of it not too gentle, to get him into a chair in a reasonably sane state.
I'm glad you came. I'm glad you found me. I'm glad to talk to somebody who isn't stupid.
I want you to calm down, Howard, and tell me what happened.
What happened? You know her, and I do, too. She didn't want to marry me. She wanted to marry my respectable name. Money.
Who killed Ben Miller?
I did. I killed him because I didn't know what else to do. Because I'd lived with these people, these low-class people, and I began to think like them. Because I've never thought for myself all my life. I've never done anything before. Anything. I killed Ben Miller, and it's the only thing I've ever done all by myself.
Why did you risk all this to protect him?
I don't know. Because there was something that drew us together. He was lost, and so was I. And I figured it was my fault. I'd drawn him into my life. He hadn't drawn me into his. I thought I owed it to him. But he's a snob, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm afraid so.
He called me a tramp. But I guess when you take a guy like him, who wants to get away from his kind of life, and a dame like me who wants to get away from her kind, and neither one can figure it out. What can you expect but trouble?
I guess she summed it up as well as anybody could. I turned him in for murder, and those who try to help him as accessories. It's for the legal brains to decide whether the policyholder will live or be executed. Expense account item 10, $200, miscellaneous. Item 11 is item 2, transportation back to Hartford. Account total $1,050. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and was written by Gil Dowd with music by Wilbur Hatch. Edmund O'Brien may soon be seen in the Paramount picture Warpath. Featured in our cast were Lorene Tuttle, John McIntyre, Bob Sweeney, Hy Averback, John Daner, Gene Bates, and Jeanette Nolan. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. Join us next week at the same time when, from Hollywood, Edmund O'Brien returns in another adventure of...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
This is Roy Rowan speaking. Stay tuned now for Vaughn Monroe's Caravan, which follows immediately over most of these same CBS stations. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
From Hollywood, it's time now for Edmund O'Brien as
Johnny Dollar.
This is Bruce Hardwick, Mr. Dollar. Do you remember me?
I think I do. You're with the Corinthian Life and Liability, aren't you?
That's right. We have some work for you if you aren't busy.
I'm not. Shoot.
Good. Our New York office got a call from the police this morning. They had investigated some trouble on the east side and found one of our policies at the scene and wanted to find out what the company knew about the man it covered, which was very little.
What kind of trouble was it?
Nobody seems to know. All the signs of murder, I understand, but no body. Will you go down and see what you can make of it?
Edmund O'Brien in another adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account. America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Corinthian Life and Liability Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Richard Splain Matter. Expense account item 1, $35 trip from Hartford to the scene of the crime. A part of Manhattan where the citizens have been conditioned to sleeping through screams, gunshot, and even the odors. I was met by a homicide sergeant, and the tenement flat he took me to lived up to its first description. It did bear all the signs of murder, except a body. Well, it must have taken a long time to accomplish all this. The place rented in the name of Richard Splain.
Yeah. What's the address on his insurance policy?
The number on 2nd Avenue. How does the report read on this so far, Sergeant?
You can see everything we saw. From the amount of busted furniture, a violent struggle. From the amount and placement of bloodstains, a sustained beating of someone there by the radiator.
Nobody heard it?
Nobody cared if they did hear it. We've asked questions, but the people won't admit anything. They don't want to get involved. The landlady phoned us after she saw the door open and looked in.
Any bloodstains out in the corridor?
Haven't found any. You seen enough?
Yeah, I guess so. What's this?
Part of some wrecked ship models. Seem to be Splain's hobby, collecting them. Yeah, there's not much we can do. We put this flat under lock and key. We can hold it that way for a while and wait for him to come back, but that's about all. Until we have some concrete evidence.
Like a body?
That would help. Are you going to wait for us or follow it up yourself?
Oh, I've got that address on 2nd.
That's his wife, isn't it?
And beneficiary in the policy.
Well, you can't do much with her until she makes a missing persons report or something. And she hasn't.
Yeah. Well, I get anything from her, I'll let you know. Expense account item 2, $1.50 taxi to the 2nd Avenue address. Mrs. Splain was a rather dumpy blonde with tousled hair and half-applied lipstick. She obviously didn't want me to come in.
Well, it's not that I don't want to help any way I could, Mr. Dollar, but I haven't seen much of Dick lately. We split up, you know.
No, I didn't.
Who came in here, Clara?
Oh, it's something about Dick.
Dick. Well, what about him? I'm sick of you getting bothered over that bum.
Oh, now, Mark, hold your temper. This man is from the insurance. Mr. Dollar, this is Mr. Bond.
How are you?
Okay. What's insurance got to do with this?
Splain had a policy on his life. Mrs. Splain is the beneficiary.
I guess I never told you, Mark. I almost forgot about it myself. It isn't very much.
$35,000. How did you learn about what happened?
Well, the police phoned me. Wanted to know if he was here. I told them the same as I told you. Well, I don't even know if Dick was in or out.
What do you mean, in or out?
In port or at sea.
Oh.
He worked on a boat.
In his policy, he listed his occupation as a carpenter.
Well, he used to be. But since the war, he's been a ship's carpenter. He's away all the time. That's one of the reasons I dumped him.
That wasn't the worst.
Mark, you talk to Mr. Dollar while I go on and put the rest in my mouth.
Oh.
I feel like I'm not half dressed.
Well, what do you want to know about him?
Whether he's dead or alive. You think he'd call Mrs. Splain if he was hurt and in trouble?
No. I know for sure he wouldn't. When they quit, they meant it.
Has there been a divorce?
Not yet. It costs money. She hasn't got any. I haven't. And if Splain has, he's not letting loose.
Would you happen to know if there's somebody he would turn to? The police checked the hospitals without finding him.
No, I don't know where he'd go. Hey, what makes you so sure Splain's the one that got messed up? Maybe he went to work on somebody else.
That's what I was thinking. One thing I can tell you from experience. Dick can take care of himself. And he's mean. But honest, that's the very best I can do.
Okay. Thanks. Here, I put my hotel room number on my card in case you want to phone. And I'll let you know if anything develops. Expense account item 3, $1.50 to Splain's flat. I decided that it would be easier to learn there the name of his last ship. And with that, I hoped to find someone who was closer to him than his wife. Sergeant Burns was no longer there, but a lie or two got a pass key from the landlady, and I went in. The top drawer of a battered bureau produced not only what I was looking for, but more. The name of the ship was the Tangier, and an envelope that contained a seaman's papers also contained a small address book with enough names and addresses to keep at least one investigator happy. I started to jot them down, but got no more than halfway through. I hope you don't mind, Sergeant.
Hey, what's all this?
Who are you?
My friend Splain's. I heard you moving in here and thought he was in. What happened?
Shut the door.
What a mess.
Nobody seems to know what happened.
Who are you? A cop?
Private type.
Is Splain dead?
Who'd want to kill him?
I don't know. I was only asking. All that blood and everything busted up. Look, I don't want to get mixed up in it. I just knew him like in the bar sometime.
Wait a minute. Come on, what's the idea?
Yes.
Shorty, I want you to tell me about Dick Splain.
No, stay off me. I don't know much about him.
You knew enough to walk through his door before anyone answered it.
Well, sure, I do that sometimes. I come to talk to him sometimes when he's in from a trip. I can't go to them places. He tells me about them. I like to hear about Tangier and them places. And he shows me them ship models he makes.
Do you know any of the people he does?
Well, all I know is where he's been. He never stays in more than a week. He eats at Sweeney's sometimes. That's just across the street. I can't help you, mister. Let me go. Come
What's
on,
your name?
It don't make no difference what my name is. I don't want to get mixed up in something I don't know anything about. Come on, now, please give me a break, will you?
Okay.
Hey, what are you reaching for?
My wallet. Will $10 pay for your time?
Sure will. Thank you. You're a good guy. I'm sorry I can't help you more.
Expense account item 4, $10 peace offering. I had a feeling I'd paid for lies with it and covered the possible loss by tailing the rabbity little man to an address a few blocks away. His name turned out to be Paul Krell. What was left of the afternoon was spent on routine legwork, and at 6 I was on the phone in my hotel room.
Sergeant Burns.
This is Dollar, Sergeant.
Oh, how'd you make out?
I've got nothing. Splain and his wife separated and can't afford a divorce. She's taken up with a guy named Mark Bond, but they both say they haven't seen or heard from Splain for a long time.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know anything about that guy.
It seems he's a ship carpenter. I got the name of his ship and went aboard. He's been with it for a couple of years, same one, plies between here and North African ports. Those people don't know much about any of their crewmates' shore life, so I didn't get much. Few names I can check tomorrow.
What's the ship?
The Tangier, white flag line, Pier 80 on the East River. Have you run into anything?
I'm still waiting.
Well, you've got my hotel.
Yeah, thanks for calling, Dollar. Something may turn up tonight. If it does, I'll phone you first thing in the morning.
Johnny Dollar.
This is Clara Splain, Mr. Dollar.
Oh, hello.
I gotta see you right away.
Sure, what's up?
They arrested Mark. You know, you met him.
Yeah. They found your husband?
Yeah, last night. I've been down to the morgue already this morning to identify him.
Yeah. Where are you now?
I'm right downstairs from you in the lobby.
All right, Clara, come on up. Come on in.
What'd you tell him about us, Mark and me?
Nothing that would put the heat on Mark by itself. If they're holding him, they must know more.
I think he's lying myself. He couldn't prove where he was when the police said my husband died.
Are you sure you didn't mention that $35,000 policy to Mark?
I don't think I ever did. No, I'm sure of it.
Why did you come here? What do you want me to do?
I'm trying to get up my nerve, Mr. Dollar. The real reason that I left Dick was because I found out something awful that he was doing.
Such as?
He built little boats, models, and they were hollow. He brought dope into the country inside of them. I didn't tell the police that because I was afraid of what they'd do to me for knowing all this time.
You should be. Did Mark know about it?
No, I never told anybody. But maybe it's important now.
You're right.
True or untrue, it is important. On the way back to the Splain flat, I lined up the things that bore out her story. 1, the remains of the ship models in his wrecked room. 2, the possibility that Paul Krell may have been a narcotics buyer. And 3, the address book that could have contained a list of customers. But I didn't have a chance to do any more probing when I got there. The place was under police investigation.
That's far enough, mister. Nobody goes inside.
Sergeant Burns up there?
What of it?
Well, I've been working with him on this. My name is Dollar, insurance investigator.
All right. I'll pick you up.
Thanks. What's all the activity? Uncover something?
Just another body.
What?
Yeah. First, not enough. Now, too many. Who can figure these things?
I could figure it when I got to Splain's door. Now the evidence I'd tampered with concerned 2 murders. The body of Paul Krell lay beaten to death in the middle of the wrecked room.
In just a moment, we'll return to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, starring Edmund O'Brien. But first, how's for trying to sing it again tonight? $5,000 in cold, hard cash and $10,000 in fine prizes are waiting for the CBS listener who can solve the Phantom Voice mystery. Dan Seymour will be on hand with those coast-to-coast phone calls again. Alan Dale, Eugenie Baird, Bob Howard, and the Riddlers will be making the music. And remember, there's many a fine prize for solving the tuneful riddle songs that lead to the Phantom Voice mystery. It's an hour of fun and music to entertain you and perhaps pay off every Saturday night on most of these same CBS stations. Here's Sing It Again tonight, won't you? And now with our star, Edmund O'Brien, we return you to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Sergeant Burns.
Yeah?
The guy says he knows you. Wants to come in.
Keep him out. Oh, Dollar. How does this happen, you're showing up here?
I got tired waiting for your call. You were going to phone this morning if anything broke.
Oh, I was, huh?
What kind of cooperation is this? I gave you everything I got yesterday.
Almost, huh? The landlady tells me you came back here yesterday. You know, it's things like that lose licenses for guys like you.
Climb down, Sergeant. You gave me the nod to go ahead without waiting for the police.
Not to mess around with evidence. I'm on the verge of putting you away 48 hours for questioning. Don't talk me into it if you don't want to go. Stay out of my hair.
Okay, Sergeant. I guess we've put our cards on the table.
What'd you come back here for yesterday?
To get the name of Splain's ship. I figured it would be easier to get it here than by making the rounds of the hiring halls. I told you what I got out of it, a few names.
Come here. There's only one change when we came back here to find this body. The top drawer of the bureau was standing open. This envelope was torn with this stuff dumped on the top. Did you do this?
No.
Hey, don't touch that. Keep your hands where they belong. We're dusting that stuff for prints.
Sorry. I guess I'd better get out of here, Sergeant, before you and I lock horns.
You're beginning to make sense, Dollar.
I thought I was, too, at least hoped so. The notebook from which I'd copied the list of names and addresses wasn't among the other articles dumped on the bureau top. But Sergeant Burns' threat to hold me for 48 hours made it easy to keep my mouth shut about it and about my having met Krell.
Oh, did they let Mark loose?
Don't be funny. Of course they didn't.
Well, did you tell him about the little boats and that?
I thought it was better not to. There's been another murder at your husband's place.
Who?
Little guy named Paul Krell. That name mean anything to you?
I never heard it before. What's it all about?
A lot of people are wondering. Where was Mark Bond last night?
They don't think he did that one, too.
I didn't ask. But I know how their minds work. They'll accuse Mark of going back to cover tracks. Where was he?
He was right here with me.
Any witnesses to prove that?
There's me. I know he was here, don't I?
Under $35,000 circumstances, that's hardly enough. How do I know this narcotics tale of yours is true?
I don't get it. Why would I admit it if it wasn't true? It's liable to get me in a lot of trouble, isn't it?
It could throw up a whale of a smokescreen for Mark, too.
All right, I'll show you something. I got one hid in the closet. It's in here someplace. Yeah, here. This one he called a frigate. First, you have to set it on something. Yeah, then you twist this thing, a mast, I think. Yeah, this part opens up.
Let me see that. That's pretty.
Dick was always good with his hands. This is the only thing of his I got.
Well, maybe a chemist can prove whether or not it carried narcotics. I can't. But assuming that was the case, who did he sell to?
I don't know. I didn't want that kind of money, and the minute I found out one night, I told him to get out and never mention it again.
That's too bad. If he was cutting in on a combination, that might account for his death. But if he was playing ball with them, it's something else. Which brings us right back to your boy, Mark. Have you thought of that?
I know he didn't do it. If I thought he did, would I look you up?
I'm taking the other approach. If he was innocent, why would you bother tossing me this model ship bone to chew on? Expense account, item 5, $25, blanket item covering transportation for the rest of the day. At the address of Paul Krell, I learned what I believed to be the truth. That his association with Splain was no more than a friendly one. From the list of names I'd copied, I picked Jerome Kentner, who had the closest address, an apartment about $250 a month away from the park.
Yes?
Mr. Jerome Kentner?
Yes.
I'd like to talk to you about a man named Richard Splain.
What about... I don't know any. I've given myself away, haven't I?
Yes, I'm afraid so, Mr. Kentner. But you don't have to be afraid of me. I'm not a policeman.
Oh, I suppose you want to come in.
I think I'd better.
Right. What is it?
Splain is dead. He was murdered night before last.
Oh. That's bad, isn't it? How did you find out about me?
There's a list of names in his rooms. Yours was one of them. You bought narcotics from him?
Ship models. I collect them. Don't you see them there in the case?
Yeah, I noticed.
Who are you and what do you want?
Private investigator. I want to find out who killed Splain.
I didn't. Why would I do that?
I don't know. When did you last see him?
Well, it wasn't the night before last. I don't think I have to answer all these
I don't
questions.
want to blackmail you into answering them, but I will if I have to.
It was last week sometime. Tuesday, I think.
How well did you know him?
I met him, that's all. Met him through a friend of mine.
What's this friend's name?
Go ahead and blackmail. I'm not talking anymore.
Huh? Suit yourself. I'll leave my phone number in case you change your mind. The next two stops yielded nothing. The names were either conveniently or coincidentally out of town. The next, Miss Francine Wells, an address on 82nd Street. Miss Francine Wells, please.
In regard to what?
Well, I'd rather tell her if you don't mind.
I'm afraid I'll have to insist. Are you a salesman?
No, I'm not a salesman. It's Miss Wells in...
Young man, you'll have to tell me who you are.
Someone for me, Dad? I was expecting Fred, remember?
Yes, I remember, and this gentleman is not Fred.
Oh? Good afternoon.
Hello. I'd like to talk to you if I could, Miss Wells.
What about? I don't know you, do I?
No, you don't, but it's important that I speak to you in private if possible.
Dad, be a good guy and go in the other room for a minute.
And leave you alone with this stranger? I will
Oh,
not.
come on. It's probably something about work.
Oh, if it is, why must it be so private?
I'll tell you later. And if I need help, I'll scream. No, if it is that private, keep it low. He'll be listening. What's it all about?
Richard Splain.
Who?
Richard Splain.
Who did you ask for here? I mean, there's been a mistake. You must have come to the wrong place.
If your name is Francine Wells, I haven't. It was that name and address I found in this flat.
How on earth would my name and address get into the apartment of a man I never heard of? Unless we have mutual friends or something.
Well, maybe you do. Your name was only one of a dozen or more.
I don't understand at all. Who is this Richard Splain?
Well, maybe you knew him without knowing his name. He sold narcotics. He's been murdered.
No. What'll I do? I am a pushover for a shocker, aren't I?
I'm sorry, it just worked out that way.
You aren't sorry. Well, sit down. I guess you're going to stay a while.
I'll stand up.
I knew this day would get here. I dreamed about it. Here it is. What happened?
Well, I'm not being paid to press the narcotics charge. I'm trying to find out who killed him.
Being paid.
By his insurance company. When did you see him last?
A day or two ago. What are these names you mentioned?
So far, all customers.
You have the list?
I made a copy of it.
And you think that one of them is the name of whoever killed this Splain? I really didn't know his name.
How did you run into him?
I don't think that's important. I was introduced to him by a friend.
Not a man named Mark Bond, by any chance? Or a woman named Clara, Splain's wife?
No, I don't know anything about him. Just enough to watch for the date of his ship when it was due to arrive. I suppose the government man will be the next to show up at my door.
Well, it's not up to me. I can't promise you any help, but I want you to look at this list of names and tell me if you know any of them. Anything I can do, I will do.
No, I don't know any of them. I feel sorry for them. I don't want to sound as if I feel sorry for myself. I don't. I was going to say I thought he deserved to be killed, but it's not his fault any more than it's the fault of... Oh, what difference does it make?
I want to leave my card with you in case there's something you haven't told me. I'll jot down my hotel. Most of the others I got to were pretty much the same. Mixtures of fear, desperation, sometimes defiance, and usually fatalism by the end of it. I arbitrarily set the name J.L. Tucker as the last for that day. He lived in a cold water spread close to Greenwich Village, and he was different.
Doesn't make any difference who knows it. I've been through these things before, so you're wasting your time. You ask me how I got in touch with Splain? I knew his wife, that's how. She was shilling for him before they got tired. Go ask her. Here's her address.
Hello?
Dollar. I just left a man named Tucker. He said he knew you. I thought I'd better call.
Oh, Tucker. How'd you find him?
He tells me you made the contacts for your husband before you separated.
That's a lie.
Why would he say it?
Well, I knew about Tucker. One night it came up. He admitted he was looking for somebody, and, well, I told him about Dick. I didn't know what I was doing. I was stiff.
I've spent a long day, and we're back to you, Chubby. Now, look, don't decide to leave town. Expense account item 6, $4 dinner at my hotel. Item 7, same amount, few brandies at the bar. I had the idea I'd spend a lot of energy for nothing until the elevator dropped me at my floor, and I turned the corner toward my room.
It's all right. You left your card with me. You must have expected something.
I left my card a lot of places. I didn't expect you, Miss Wells.
You don't seem to have had any other takes.
Come on in. Well?
You said if there was anything else I wanted to tell you.
Yeah?
Well, there is. It goes a long way back. I don't know how these things happen to some people and not others. I was no angel, but I was all right.
Come on, sit down over here.
I've always told myself that some people get bitten by rattlesnakes and others don't. But it's not the same. It was in school, after a party, and neither one of us had any sense. He got it from somebody.
Who was this?
In Pennsylvania. His name was Phil. I don't know. I came home, never saw him again. But that was the start of it. It was only 2 years ago. I knew it would end. Kept wondering how. Now it has ended.
What are you trying to tell me?
I killed Richard Splain. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Why?
Because I went to him without any money, and he laughed at me. I don't know what happened to me. I picked up something and started to hit him. I hit him.
Why didn't you tell me this before?
Because I thought I could go through with it. But I can't. If it happened this time, I don't want to go on anymore. I went to him without any money, and I picked up the first thing I touched and started to beat him.
What was that?
I don't even remember.
An andiron?
Yes, I think that's what it was.
And Paul Krell, you killed him too?
Yes. I don't know. Yes, I did. I must have. And I don't care. I don't care.
Well, that was a good try, but it won't work. This wasn't a woman's killing, no matter how desperate she was. You want me to go? Or do you want to stay here?
Please. Please, I did it. I did it. Isn't that enough? Haven't I done enough?
Yeah? Yeah, I'm afraid you have.
Yes? Oh, it's you. Where's my daughter?
I want to talk to you about her.
Where is she?
Mr. Wells, somewhere in this apartment, if you haven't destroyed it, is a piece of very important evidence.
What's that you say?
A notebook containing a lot of names, among them your daughter's.
Oh, she told you this?
Well, hardly. She was trying to protect you. She confessed to killing Richard Splain.
They haven't arrested her.
Not yet.
She was lying. You know that.
I'm afraid I do, Mr. Wells.
Oh, I'm glad. I told her about it after I heard you leave. Are you married?
No.
If you were, and you were my age, and had a daughter, you'd understand. You know what it's like to watch her change. I didn't know for a long time. I wondered, and I followed her. And when I learned the truth, I killed him. Surely you don't blame me.
I turned Wells over to the police, not Sergeant Burns, and heard him explain his second killing, that of Paul Krell, who had arrived as Wells was looking for any trace his daughter might have left at Splain's. Remarks? Don't question the policy payoff to Clara Splain, in spite of the fact that she hardly deserves it. Expense account item 7, same as item 1. Expense account total, $375. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and is written by Gil Dowd with music conducted by Wilbur Hatch. Edmund O'Brien may soon be seen in the Paramount Pictures production Warpath. Featured in tonight's cast were Herb Butterfield, Raymond Burr, Joe Gilbert, Bill Boucher, Howard McNear, Barry Kroger, and Mary Lansing. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. This is Bob Stevenson inviting you to join us next week at this time when we'll again bring you Edmund O'Brien as...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Have you met the Coopers, Liz and George? They're the young married couple who keep things humming and keep you laughing in that hilarious domestic comedy, My Favorite Husband, broadcast every Saturday night over most of these same CBS stations. So tune in every Saturday night to My Favorite Husband. And now stay tuned for Vaughn Monroe's Caravan, which follows immediately over most of these same Columbia stations. This is CBS, the Stars Address, the Columbia Broadcasting System. From Hollywood, it's time now for Edmund O'Brien as...
Johnny Dollar.
This is Carl Bush, Johnny.
Yeah, Carl, what's new?
We've currently got a marine insurance headache down here. I don't know if you're interested, but your commission would be fat. I called you because I had a feeling you know Singapore. Is that right?
Yeah, I've been there on a case, and it'll have to be a fat commission to get me back there.
The policy is for $300,000. It covers a cargo that's being delayed out there, a time clause.
What reason do you have so far?
Mechanical trouble on the ship. One breakdown after another.
Accidental, sabotage, or both?
That's what we want to learn. Come on down after lunch and talk it over.
Edmund O'Brien in another adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account. America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Tri-State Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Yankee Pride matter. Expense account item 1, $1.50 cab fare to your office.
Maritime insurance is a bad gamble at best, Dollar. Looks like we're on the short end of this one.
That I know about. I bet on Notre Dame last Saturday.
You aren't alone. This is a cargo of tin bound for a West Coast plant that's under government contract. Armament. Bearings, I think.
Oh. Well, that's where that time clause you mentioned fits, huh?
Right. They got a deadline, so they insured themselves. The way it stands, if that ship doesn't leave Singapore in a week, we start losing 2% a day on 300,000.
You have an office in Singapore?
Yes, but we haven't gotten any satisfaction from them. I don't know. That far away, you're out of touch.
What's your man's name?
Here, name's Els, Vincent Els. Here's the address.
Yeah. Well, I guess I can get the rest of the dope from him. I'll get out of here as soon as I can get space.
Good. It's nice seeing you, Johnny. Let me know when your plane leaves. I'll send you a bouquet of bourbon or something.
Expense account item 2, $1,280 airfare and incidental expenses between Hartford and Singapore. In the perverse way of ship and airlines, we arrived with one of Malaya's heavy, muggy dawns, coasting in over haze-hidden native villages, the island-studded harbor, and finally settling on the big field. I finished customs by 9, napped in my room at the Hotel Europe till 10, and I was in Tri-State's office by 1 p.m.
I'm happy to meet you, Mr. Dollar. Sit down. I trust you had a pleasant trip out.
Well, it's a little too long to be pleasant, Mr. Els, but those airline people do everything they can.
Yes, you've been in the East before?
A few times. Now...
Then you know that the unexpected is more or less commonplace here.
Say, what are you driving at?
It's possible that you've come on an extremely dangerous mission, sir.
Oh?
On the other hand, perhaps it's only coincidence. One of my adjusters has been killed.
He was working on this case?
Yes, I'm afraid he was.
What have you done about it?
I've turned the matter over to the police.
Did you mention the situation, the delayed cargo?
I did, but I rather think that they categorized him as an individual rather than as an insurance adjuster.
Who was he?
A young Chinese, Kufo Sun, an intelligent chap. I discussed the matter with him the morning previous to his death. That was 2 days ago. He told me he was going to visit the ship in question, the Yankee Pride. The men on board said he never arrived.
You don't think his death was a coincidence, do you?
Instinctively, no, but it's true that death isn't rare in some quarters here.
So I've heard. Hey, did this boy of yours leave a family? Anyone I can talk to?
His parents were killed in the last unpleasantness, but there's a brother. They shared quarters.
I'd like to have the address.
Of course. It's in 10 Coolant Street. Here you are. I won't bother directing you. Any rickshaw fellow will know where it is. But I believe he's employed by a Dutch concern. Wouldn't be at home till evening.
That'll work out. I want to go talk to the chief engineer of that ship first anyway.
Yes, I suppose you'll have to go. I only beg of you to proceed with great caution. The ship is down at the east docks.
in the sack. Come in.
Oh, sorry to bother you, Chief. What's the matter with you?
Blasted fever. Seems like this climate brings it back.
Malaria?
Yeah. What do you want aboard?
My name's Dollar. I was sent out here by the company that's insuring your cargo.
What about it?
Well, they're going to start losing money if this ship doesn't get started home in a few days.
Well, there's nothing they can do and nothing I can do. I have a bearing flown to me from Hong Kong. When that gets here, I can pump water into the boilers, and not before.
What do you think about all this mechanical trouble you've been having?
What do you mean?
Well, has it all been legitimate, or could it have been sabotage?
Sabotage? Now, who'd do that?
I don't know.
Well, it hasn't been sabotage. Bearings go and generators foul up without any help. Ask me, I've been nursing them for 15 years.
When do you expect the stuff from Hong Kong?
It's hard to say. People don't work the same out here as they do in the States.
Well, I'll fly up there myself after your bearing if it'll get you out of here on time.
Look, mister, I'm not in any shape to figure out anything now. I'm sick. I'll try and talk to the captain about it. Come back tomorrow. Will you?
Uh-huh. Sure, Chief. I know. That fever's rough. After dinner that night, I rickshawed towards the address of the dead Chinese adjuster. I crossed over the Singapore River, which winds through the city to separate the native and European quarters, and entered Bencoolen Street. It was jammed with its people outside to take advantage of the breath of coolness that comes with night.
Well, here's one.
Good. Which store?
I point.
Good.
You go some other place, one. I wait.
All right, you wait. Are you Mr. Koo?
Who asked?
I'm an American. I want to talk to you about your brother.
I will not talk. Why do you come here?
I'm working for the company where your brother worked. I came all the way from America. Why won't you talk to me?
You speak the truth?
Yes, I have no reason to lie.
You come then. You heard in America about my brother?
No, but I'm here in Singapore to do the same job he was doing when he was killed. I wondered if there was some connection.
Connection?
Was he killed because of what he was doing or for some other reason?
I do not know. I did not know what he was doing.
Are you telling the truth?
Yes.
What are you afraid of? Why did you tell me you wouldn't talk about your brother?
I do not want to die.
Why would you die? Did someone tell you that you would if you talked about it?
Yes. I cannot tell anything because I know nothing. That he will not believe.
Who? Come on, you can trust me. I promise you I won't mention a word of this.
He who came here before the police. I told him that my brother and I speak of other things, not work. But he made promise that I die if I speak to police.
Who was this man? Did you know him?
No, I have never seen him.
Was he Oriental or Occidental?
English. He would do low work, I think. The work of frightening people for some other.
Ah. And you're sure your brother didn't say anything about his work the night or day before he was killed, huh? Anything about a ship named the Yankee Pride?
Nothing. I have spent many hours remembering his last words to me. He spoke only of one new thing. A woman. With Forsoon, there was always new woman. With this one, he was filled with pride and excitement. She was Malayan. Perhaps she brought him death.
The man that threatened you, did he ask you about her?
He asked me everything that had been talked of, but I was frightened and did not mention her.
Do you know her name or where I can find her?
You will keep the secret?
I won't even mention that I've met you.
What will you say?
Well, I'll lie about when I got here. I'll tell her I talked to your brother that night before he died.
Her name is Randi. There's a place of an Arab in Malabar Street. It is called Billy Parker. That is where he spoke of finding her.
All right. I'll see if I can.
Please. Kosun's death is a very heavy sorrow. But my death is in the future. Do not come back. To speak further of this would be to waste the future.
I won't come back, Mr. Cole. Thanks for the help you've given me.
Goodbye.
Hey, wait one. You go other place now.
Yeah, I go other place. Malabar Street. Billy Parker. You know that?
I know, all right.
I didn't bother to go back. The crowd surging around the door I'd come out was enough to tell me what had happened. The future that Mr. Koo had been so anxious to protect had just ceased to exist.
In just a moment, we'll return to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, starring Edmund O'Brien. But first, are you ready to sing it again tonight? You'll find a whole hour full of the day's popular music sung by Eugenie Baird, Alan Dale, Bob Howard, and the Riddlers. You'll hear the tuneful riddle songs that lead to Sing It Again's Phantom Voice Treasure Trove. $5,000 in cash and $10,000 more in wonder prizes. Be listening again to Sing It Again tonight when it comes your way on most of these same CBS stations. The Phantom's a puzzler, but some CBS listener will win that $5,000 in cash. And now with our star, Edmund O'Brien, we return you to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Telephones are still at a premium in the native quarters of Singapore. I wanted to report what had happened to Vincent Ells and tell him where I was going and why. So I tried to find one, but couldn't. The joint called the Billy Parker was a mixture of nationalities, languages, and tobacco smoke. I spotted two Occidentals as I went in. They ignored me, so I ignored them and elbowed a place at the bar.
Hello, boss. What do you drink?
Any scotch?
Oh, yes, sir. Got good scotch.
I'll take one. Don't mix it. Yeah, I'm looking for a girl named Rondi. She here tonight?
Rondi? You go table. She serve you, boss. You pay her.
Right.
Rondi! Rondi! Come quick.
I am Randy. I brought a drink for me. Is all right?
I'm glad you did. Sit down.
Why did you ask for me?
Well, a friend told me about you.
You sound American, are you?
That's right.
I know some Americans.
Did one teach you to speak English? You speak very well.
No, they do not teach me that. I learned from missionary school in Penang. You are surprised?
I didn't know it showed.
Everybody is surprised that Randy went to school. Some American friend told you about me?
No, he was Chinese. His name was Ku Fo Soon.
Ku Fo Soon. He is no friend of mine. He's poor clerk. He told you about me?
A couple of afternoons ago. Said he was coming here to meet you.
He wanted to meet me, all right, but I did not want to meet him. He made fool of himself.
That would be easy.
What did he say about me?
Oh, that you were beautiful. That he was looking forward to seeing you.
He said that because he was lonely. I know about men. Is that why you think of me tonight? Because you are lonely?
As a matter of fact, I am.
What is your name?
Dollar, Johnny Dollar.
You tease me.
Well, I'll admit it has a ring to it.
No. I tease you. I know the name. In Penang, my father worked for a steamship line with that name. Are you in shipping business?
No relation. Shall we get rid of the scotch?
How do you say? Bottoms up.
I think I like Cooper Soon better now.
What do you mean?
Because he told you about me. I get tired of these people. I like to talk to you.
Randy, you come what?
Oh, good. Will you wait for me?
Wait for you?
Only a little while, then I stop work. You come to my house. We can talk some more. Please, you wait.
Rondi, are you lying to me, or don't you really know that Kufu Soon is dead?
He is dead? I only knew him that one time. Not as well as I know you. How should I find out? Why should I lie to you?
Because the chances are that you're the last person to see him before he was killed.
How do you know that?
Because he was on his way to meet you, and he never came back.
There are many places to go in Singapore.
Yeah, but it all keeps returning to you or that place. Fusoon's brother was shot right after he told me about you.
I did not know he had brother. Johnny, I do not want to talk to you like this.
I gave the name of the place to my rickshaw boy. Somebody overheard it. And the shooting took place right after we left. Why would somebody want to keep me away from you?
Nobody wants to keep you away from me. You are frightened?
Ah, that's past. If they'd wanted to kill me, they would have by now. Why did you bring me here?
I thought you understood. You are in trouble. Why don't you tell me? To listen to you, I would help you.
Forget it.
That would be better. I will help you forget, too. I'll make a drink. Pie. You like pie?
Sure, anything.
Do not think about your dead friends, John. You cannot help them now. You think of me.
What else?
Easy now. Easy. Sorry to interrupt. Hey, keep your pistol on him, Roy. Right. While I find out if he's got one.
He's not armed.
Ah, well, you should know, dearie. Well, now, ain't you going to get up?
I don't see why I should.
Because we're going for a little drive, that's why you should. Are you coming like a gentleman or otherwise?
Roy! Yeah? Oh!
Well, Dollar, what do you make of this? You go to sleep in a river shack. You're not careful now. Stay on your feet. And you wake up on the threshold of a blasted mansion. Here, give me a hand, Roy. He can't hold his feet yet. All right. You know, you're an important man, Dollar. But don't get big-headed. There's them that's more important. Major, here we are.
I'm in the library. Come along.
Right you are. Go on, straight ahead.
What on earth have you done to him?
He was quite violent, sir.
Here, help him to the chair. I'd hoped this wouldn't happen, Mr. Dollar. Let me look at you.
Don't bother. You'll get a foot in the face if you get close enough. I promise you that.
Oh, I see. It's obvious that you fancy yourself a difficult man to deal with. But let me share a simple truth. You will accomplish nothing here until I allow you to.
Those are strong words.
I have the power to support them. I know all about you, why you're here. My chief engineer will see that the Yankee pride does not move until I give the word.
And when will that be?
When I am ready to leave for Mexico.
Oh, you're crazy. That ship isn't going to Mexico.
Oh, yes, it is, Mr. Dollar. Because I have paid well for passage there.
You don't buy ship's articles. The Yankee pride says she's going to San Francisco.
One can buy anything with sufficient funds. The simplest are the petty official signatures needed to make these changes. You'd be amazed at how easily eyes are blinded and ears deafened. You don't agree with me?
Up to a point.
I understand. You think that I brought you here for the purpose of bargaining with you? There's no need for that.
Why am I here?
Because I enjoy my power. And at the moment, I'm fighting you and your stumbling, idiotic methods.
You're proud of your own? What kind of power did it take to bring off the murders of the Koo brothers? I'm not impressed.
You will be. I'm going to let you go on with your investigation because you're a harmless pipsqueak.
Thanks.
How much money will your company lose by further delay?
2% of $300,000 for each day over schedule.
Well, please convey to them my thanks. And tell them I shall cover their loss. They won't attempt to prosecute. You may go. Earl and Roy will drive you wherever you wish them to.
I retreated to my hotel room. But I knew one thing about him and thought I knew something else. His name, as spotted on an envelope on the way out, seemed to be Major Ralph Dixon, and I had a strong feeling that his weakness was his strength and vice versa. The man was power mad. In spite of my exhaustion, frustration didn't let me sleep too well through the rest of the night.
Good morning, Mr. Ells here.
This is Dollar.
Well, I'm glad you phoned. I worried about what might happen to you last night.
Well, don't think for a minute that it didn't happen. What do you know about a Major Ralph Dixon?
Ralph Dixon?
Yeah.
Why, nothing. Who is he?
Well, he boasts that he's the man behind our trouble. He's crazy, and I really mean that.
Oh?
He claims that he's bribed everybody concerned with the Yankee Pride sailing, including port officials.
Mr. Dollar, you sound serious.
I believe him. Look, you have better entree here than I have. Would you see that you can learn something about the ship's papers being changed to include a Mexican port?
Oh, there was no Mexican port. I know that.
Well, he says there is. And see what you can learn about his visas and passport. And you might even check customs. He's holding the sailing up for something.
I say, what are you going to be doing?
Well, I'll start at the other end. I know my way around the bottom. Hello, Randy.
I did not run away, did I? I knew you would come back here.
You aren't afraid of me, but you will be. Right now, you're afraid of the Major, and I don't blame you. 2 men were killed to keep you and the rest of us pawns afraid.
Yes, I'm afraid of him. Many people are.
You and 1 or 2 others are going to have to protect him by taking the blame for those 2 murders. You know that, don't you?
Said there would be no trouble.
That was before I came to town. I say there is going to be trouble. Because I'm going to turn you in. And the Major is so powerful that nobody will believe you when you tell the truth. You'll pay for it all.
I believe that.
Well, don't you want to help yourself if you can?
Why? You know his power.
Not like you do, and I don't want to. I think he's crazy. And if I have to, I'll kill him.
What can I do?
Tell me what's behind it.
Gold. From an inland sultanate who is afraid of invasion. They send their gold out when they can. The Major is making the arrangements.
How much, do you know?
I've only heard. Almost 100 million.
American standard?
Yes, American. It's been delayed in its journey here. What can you do against power like that, Johnny?
If we can get high enough, we'll break him. The man I'm working with on this is checking every official the Major claims to have paid off.
How do you know that?
What do you mean by that?
You are speaking of Mr. Eyre?
That's right.
He is only a human being. He is as greedy as any of us. I do not think he is asking questions.
He's been bought, too, huh?
Yes.
You, the captain, the engineer, officials, else.
You too, Johnny. If you were wise.
Did they tell you to say that?
It does not matter. Yes, they did. They told me to warn you.
I'm glad to hear that.
Why should you be glad?
Because it means he's afraid of me. What else were you supposed to tell me?
Only about Mr. Ells.
Yeah. Mr. Ells is as good a place to start as any. A check on the tri-state office told me that Ells had left for home, so I followed him there. It was a cottage set back from the street. No one answered my knock. Through the veranda window, I could see why. Vincent Ells was sprawled on the floor, a pistol just beyond his outstretched hand. On the way to Major Dixon's, I stopped at my hotel long enough to get an automatic out of my luggage.
Well, what do you...
What's the meaning of this?
I just left Vincent Ells' house.
Oh, yes. I've been advised that the poor man took his own life. Perhaps you can profit from his act.
I think I can. What happened? Did he turn on you?
Let us say that he didn't appreciate his position with me. He miscalculated my strength. Naturally learned there was nothing left for him to live for. How have you fared?
I've done all right. I've finally realized that there's only one way to stop you.
Oh? And, what is that?
To kill you. Have you thought of that?
Oh, see here. I'm a man of influence. You'd not be rewarded, you'd be prosecuted.
I think you're a man of influence only in your own mind. Your influence is due partially to money, but more to fear. Ells turned on you and you killed him. The girl Rondi would if she weren't afraid.
Ah, but she is.
She wouldn't be if you were dead. I want you to come with me.
And where would we go?
Down to the police commissioner, where I want you to list every bribe and killing you've been involved in.
Ridiculous. I have an appointment at the club. You'll pardon me, I'm sure.
I know about the gold, Major.
Oh, you do you? What do you propose doing about it?
I'm going to stop it.
You?
Don't try to leave, Major. Major!
You fool. Stupid little fool.
I didn't kill him. As it turned out, I didn't have to. Police investigation of the shooting brought out all the truth. The gold was confiscated when it arrived, and after 3 days of questioning, I was released. Remarks? You may lose 2 days on the Yankee Pride schedule, but to balance that, you also lost Mr. Ells, an agent you can do without. Expense account item 4, $300 miscellaneous. Expense account item 5, same as item 2. Expense account total, $2,686. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and is written by Gil Dowd with music conducted by Alexander Courage. Edmund O'Brien may soon be seen in the Paramount Pictures production Warpath. Featured in tonight's cast were Virginia Gregg, Bob Sweeney, Tudor Owen, Bill Johnstone, Wally Mayer, Jack Crucian, and Ben Wright. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. This is Bob Stevenson inviting you to join us next week at this time when we'll again bring you Edmund O'Brien as...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
There's Saturday night fun with the younger married set when Lucille Ball and her favorite husband come along later this evening on most of these same Columbia stations. Now stay tuned for Vaughn Monroe's Caravan, which follows immediately on most of these same CBS stations. This is CBS, where Hopalong Cassidy rides every Saturday night on the Columbia Broadcasting System.
From Hollywood, it's time now for...
Johnny Dollar.
Now,
Dollar, my name is Stroul. Stroul Bail Bond and Insurance Agency. State, federal, and immigration, all forms of surety bonds and insurance.
Oh, yeah? Well, I'm sorry. I don't need any.
No, that's not the point. I need you to the tune of saving me $50,000.
How does that work?
I made bond for 2 men that were subpoenaed for a federal investigation. They skipped out, and I've got to find them.
Who's mixed up in this investigation?
A fellow by the name of Jack Madigan is the big shot. You know him?
I've read about him. Enough to advise you to give up. If he doesn't want him found, the chances are they won't be. Alive, anyway.
No, it's not as bad as that. Look, I came all the way from New York. This is worth a lot to me. Can't I talk to you about it?
All right. Come up to my apartment. Maybe we can work out a deal.
Edmund O'Brien in a transcribed adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account. America's fabulous freelance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar, Hartford, Connecticut, to the Stroul Bail Bond and Insurance Agency, New York City. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Jack Madigan matter. Expense account item 1, $250, phone to New York for purposes of checking your reputation. I learned that you, Mr. Stroul, were by no means above reproach, but decided that if a federal court trusted your agency, I would at least hear you out when you arrived, which you did at 1 p.m.
Mr. Dollar?
Come on in, Mr. Stroul.
Thank you. Thanks for sparing me your time. I'm in a mess.
Sit down. You should have known better than to make bond for anybody that was going to testify against Jack Madigan.
Well, there was nothing I could do about it.
Well, who forced you into it?
Madigan. I've done business with some of his friends before, so he came to me this time and said, will I do it? Well, the way he said it, there was nothing else I could do.
Madigan stood the expense himself?
Sure. He wanted them where he could get his hands on them, and it looks like he did. Or they took a run out.
They didn't have to accept bond. They could have stayed in protective custody if they were afraid of him.
They had to if Madigan told them to. The point is they're gone. Unless I can prove they're dead or find them before they're due in court, I forfeit the $50,000, $25,000 apiece. I've got to do something.
Why'd you come to me?
I told you, I've got to do something.
Well, it's a federal problem. You operate in New York, and New York has plenty of hungry private detectives, I hear, and a fair-sized herd of policemen.
I'll tell you why I came to you. The New York cops are busy enough, and besides, to them, these witnesses are just 2 names on a long list of missing persons. And as for private dicks, I could never be sure that one wouldn't want to make a deal with Madigan and make more money not finding them than I'd be paying to find them. You get the point?
What makes you think you can trust me?
Well, you were mentioned by a fella from one of the insurance companies I sell for. They tell me you're straight, except for padding your expense account here and there.
Oh, that's slander. Now, who told you that?
Don't make any difference. What's a little padding? I want to hire you.
Okay, Mr. Stroul, you've hired me.
Great.
Now, who are these missing witnesses?
Nippy Bruno is one. Real name's Joe. The other is Max Krause. I've got their addresses, next to kin, what they look like, and so on. Yeah, here, I got it all in this envelope here.
Okay. Oh, there's one other thing.
Yeah?
I want a retainer. $2,500.
What's that for?
To pay for going to work for a man I don't quite trust.
But $2,500, that's pretty steep, isn't it?
Well, you don't have to pay it. It's up to you.
Yes, but... Well, I can't get it till tomorrow.
That'll be fine. A cashier's check. When I get it, I'll see what I can do for you. I didn't expect the check to arrive, but it did. Special messenger the next afternoon. Expense account item 2, $12.50, transportation from Hartford to New York City. Expense account item 3, $23.85, dinner and drinks for a Herald American reporter who was more familiar with Jack Madigan than I. His statement enclosed.
A lot of things have been written and said about Madigan by a lot of people, including me. None of us really know anything about him, how much power he has, where he got it, what his private life is, if any. And these witnesses being missing isn't even news. People who've gotten in his way have been dropping out of sight for years. There's Jim Schwartz and Big Tom Green. There's Woody South, just to name a few. I'd keep that in mind if I were you.
Expense account item 4, 180, cab fare. That same address to an address on 79th. The apartment of Nippy Bruno's next of kin, a sister, stage name, Vivian Brown.
Good evening, sir.
Hello. Miss Vivian Brown in?
Who shall I say is calling?
My name is Dollar.
Mr. Dollar?
She doesn't know me. Tell her I have some news about her brother.
Come in, please. This way, please. Miss Brown is dressing to go out. I'll ask if she'll see you. Miss Brown?
Yes? What is it?
Mr. Dollar is here to see you.
Who?
He says he has news about your brother.
Tell him to wait. I'll get a robe on.
Shall I take your hat?
Thanks.
Please sit down. Miss Brown will be right out.
What was your name? I didn't get it.
Dollar, Johnny Dollar.
What makes you think I'd be interested in any news about Brother Nippy?
Well, the mention of him got me in here.
My butler doesn't slam the door on anybody until I tell him to. What brought you here?
I'm looking for your brother.
Then you've definitely come to the wrong place. Why should you be looking for him?
I'm being paid to. The man who put up $25,000 bond for him wants to know where he is.
I don't get it. What bond?
You don't wear innocence very well, Angel, but I'll go along with the gag.
It's no gag, and I can do without your insults.
Your brother's due in court in 2 weeks to help the federal men investigate Jack Madigan. He seems to have dropped out of sight. Do you know where he is?
No. I haven't seen much of him in the past few years. He doesn't approve of me, and I don't approve of him. Does that answer your question?
It brings another one to mind. He seemed to think enough of you to use your name on his bond request papers. How about that?
All right, Peeper. I was only trying to do it easy for you. Red.
I heard it. You walked into something, Peeper.
I usually do, but I'm glad to see you in character. That automatic makes more sense than that phony butler act did.
Stand up. Better see if he's carrying anything, Vivian.
Okay. Be a good boy now.
Until you try to palm my wallet, I will.
It's all right. He's safe.
You can sit down, Dollar.
Well, what now?
He should be here in 20 minutes. I'll go back to my room.
Sure, go ahead.
What's the rough stuff, Red?
Hasn't been rough. But you don't know how close you came to getting your head blown off buzzing this door. It's liable to happen to the next one that does. Light yourself a smoke. We got about 20 minutes to wait.
So we waited 20 minutes. Vivian came back into the room in a low-cut number that was a good choice for her sullen brunette attractiveness. It made her look softer, but the few remarks she passed weren't only icy. They could have come from a longshoreman. I was waiting for her brother to come in. That would have made sense. What did come in made none at all. It was Jack Madigan.
Hi, Jack. Come on in and see what found me.
Well, what do you know about this?
How are you, Jack?
Fine, thanks. What are you doing with that pistol?
We wanted to play it safe.
Yeah, he's a detective of some kind. He was hired by that Stroll to find Nippy.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? What do you have to say for yourself, my boy?
Matter of fact, I'm speechless, Madigan.
Oh? How's that?
I thought I'd have to find you. I didn't expect you to find me. Yet, at least, and here.
What's so strange about that?
You and the sister of the missing witness? Maybe not so strange at that.
Shut up! Keep your remarks to yourself, you two-bit heel.
Yeah, Vivian. Cool off. Go mix me a highball. And you, put that gun away and go help her with the ice.
If you say so, Jack.
Of course I say so. Now, go on.
I'm sorry, Jack. He's been needling me for half an hour.
Now to take her across my knee, waving that gun in your face. What for? Anybody knows you can't fire a gun in these apartment houses without causing a ruckus. What's your name?
Dollar.
And Manny Stroll hired you to find Nippy.
And the other man, Krause.
Well, I'll tell you what to do. You go back to Strool and tell him the boys are all right.
Oh, let's not be childish, shall we? In what river are they all right?
Now, see here, there's no need to take such a pessimistic view. I realize the press has given me a reputation for violence, but I don't deserve it. There's no reason for me to want to harm those boys. I'm not afraid of their testimony. I'm counting on it.
Sure.
And straight testimony, no perjury this time. Why, I've already talked to those federal men. I'm cleaning the slate this time, telling everything, and let the chips fall where they may.
What kind of stuff is this?
It's the truth. I'm tired. I've been at sword's point with the police and my government long enough. I've been offered certain little leniencies, and I'm going to accept. It's been later than I thought for a long time. I'm through.
You know, this is almost funny.
I'm dead serious. You go back and tell that police coroner tout that the boys are all right.
Where are they?
I can't tell you that. I've got them under cover for their own good. Now, Dollar, don't go off half-cocked. A lot of heads are going to fall after the three of us have finished this federal catechism. If you think you're the only one looking for them, you must be a stranger in town. Well, you're trailing the pack.
Well, if this is all I get from you, I've heard enough.
You'll drop it?
If I don't find them before you're due in court, I will.
What do you want, son? Money?
I got some, thanks.
I don't like to hear that. I suppose it takes a lot of guts to be a hero, but it sure doesn't take much brains. Remember that.
I can leave?
Of course you can leave. Because I think you're going to talk this over with yourself and come up with an important decision.
I did talk it over with myself, but not until I found a cab stand on the corner and turned around. A quarter of a block behind me, I could make out the figure of Red, the so-called butler. Expense account item 5, $20, fare and tip to a driver who saw to it that our cab wasn't followed. When I felt reasonably safe, I gave him the address of the second missing man, Max Krause. I didn't know what I expected to find there, other than an empty flat with possibly a lead of some kind. There was a trace of light showing under the door.
Come on in, Dollar.
Red. I didn't expect a butler in a place like this.
Come on in. Why didn't you use your head? Jack gave you a chance to.
Maybe I should have. What are you doing here?
I live here.
You trying to tell me that you're Max Krause?
I'm Max Krause. And now I've got to do something about you.
Can you prove that you're Max Krause?
Why should I have to prove it? Go ahead. Think what you want to. You got brains. Reach up behind you and snap off the light. Don't make a play for the gun, Dollar.
What are your plans?
Madigan wants you put away until after the investigation. Come on. This way. Back door's closer.
You can tell Madigan for me that this isn't going to work. If I drop out of sight for 2 weeks, somebody's going to get on the trail. It leads right back to Madigan.
This way. I got a car in a garage down the street.
That's him. Get down. Max, let me see.
Sure. Now you believe him.
Let me get your coat.
Get away. I hate your God.
We'll return to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, in just a moment. Once a year, the community chest comes knocking at your door, seeking your help. Giving to this worthy cause eliminates many separate appeals, which would be more costly in money, time, and effort. So when you give, make sure you give enough to cover the many campaigns the community chest includes. Give generously. Give today. Now, with our star, Edmund O'Brien, we return you to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
windows in the buildings around me started slamming open, I left the scene of the killing and carried with me a whole new set of thoughts on the Jack Madigan matter. None of them were good, but the worst was the fact that the description I'd gotten of Max Krause would in no way fit the dead man I now thought was Max Krause. Expense account item 6, cab fare to your address, Mr. Stroll.
But it's 11 at night, Mr. Dollar.
Never mind what time it is. Find a chair and sit in it before you land on the floor.
What's got into you?
Sit down. Who paid you to hire me?
What did you say?
Who did?
Paid me to hire you? What kind of a question is that?
Answer it.
Well, nobody did. It was my investment. Who would protect it but me? What's the matter with you?
Come here, look at this. Read it right there. I want to hear you.
Max Krause, age 34, 5'11", 170 pounds, swarthy complexion, black hair, black eyes.
Well, all right, why did you give me a phony description?
Phony?
The Max Krause I found had red hair and blue eyes.
I don't get it. None of this. What are you talking about?
Krause is dead. He was killed because I didn't know who he was and drew him out into the open.
When did this happen?
It happened. I was picked up the minute I hit town and followed. Who else but you knew what train I was arriving on and the hotel where I was stopping?
Now, wait a minute. I don't think you've got right to jump at these conclusions. I hired you in good faith. But if you don't like the job, then quit.
Not for a while. I stand a good chance of being picked up for questioning on that killing. I don't like that. I want an out. I want to know how it happened. From here, it looks like you sold out to somebody and hired me to put the finger on Krause. I don't like that either.
Let me tell you something. If I was crazy enough to do a thing like that, I'd do it so nobody could prove I
What
did.
about the phony description?
It may have been a mistake. I don't know how it happened.
I think we'd better find out. And let me know when you come up with a story.
Hello?
This is Johnny Dollar.
Oh, where are you?
Not far from your place. Is Madigan there?
No.
Where is he?
I don't know. He got a phone call and left right afterwards.
Was the call about Krause?
He wouldn't tell me. What about Max?
He was killed.
Oh, I knew it was something awful. I could tell by his face. I've been scared to death ever since he left, and I didn't know why.
I'll call back later and see if he's in.
Mr. Dollar, I have no right to ask this, but there's something I want to tell you. Could you come up?
Can't you tell me over the phone?
No, Won't you come up?
You alone?
Yes, I'm alone.
Okay. I'll take a chance. It'll be about 10 minutes. It was a 5-minute walk, and I noticed that New York streets seemed to be quieter than usual. Inside the building, I walked the 2 flights up to save the noise my arrival would have created by way of the elevator. I listened a few minutes outside a door without hearing anything and took the plunge.
I had the feeling you'd change your mind and not come.
I almost did.
There's nobody here.
When did Madigan say he'd be back?
He didn't. He didn't say anything.
I have a funny feeling about Krause's death. But except for my getting mixed up in this mess, it was more Madigan's fault than your fault than it was mine. Why didn't he tell me it was Krause who was here? If he told me that, I probably would have believed the rest of his pitch.
Oh, I don't know. Nobody really knows anything about Jack.
Not even you?
Nobody.
You put 3 men on their way to federal court to sing and a few hundred wanting to stop him. The lid is going to blow. What'd you want to tell me?
I want to tell you where my brother is.
Huh? After what happened to Krause, do you think that's wise?
I have to say it. I'm in it, too. I think Jack knew these things were going to happen, even about you showing up.
Knowing about it or planning it?
I know it sounds impossible, but I keep remembering things he said about how he'd have the government men eaten out of his hand. He was bargaining for leniency.
He told me, but why are you ratting on him?
Because Jack doesn't care about anybody but himself. One of the threats to keep him from testifying was that I'd be kidnapped. Huh. If he'd known that Max would be killed, he'd have let him take me, too.
You think he did know?
He hadn't let Max out of his apartment for almost a month. Tonight he ordered him to go. I think he wants us killed, so it'll make it look that much more dangerous for him. Does it sound too crazy?
Well, not exactly, but it's hard to prove.
I know that. And I did a foolish thing after he left. I called my brother Nippy and told him all this. I don't know what he thought, but I tried to call him again, and I don't get any answer.
Where is he?
He's been staying with Jack. It's over on Lexington, Brighton Arms, apartment 302.
That's cozy. How afraid of kidnapping are you?
Oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know how I can stand staying here and waiting. Where can I go?
Get a coat. I'll put you in my hotel room. Expense account item 6, $10. Tip to the hotel detective to see that she stayed in the room. Item 7, $120 cab fare to Jack Madigan's address. I dropped my taxi a half block down and walked the rest of the way. What slowed me was the sight of a couple of prowl cars parked in front of the building. And even at that time of night, a small group of the morbid in a scattered circle on the sidewalk. I saw the body, but didn't move close enough to recognize it. Hey, what happened?
Huh? Oh, a shooting.
Anybody know who it is?
The whole country will in the morning. He was due for a big federal probe. That's Jack Madigan. Where were you, Fred? Taking in another of them westerns, I suppose. There was more shooting right here than the whole picture.
Hey, pardon me.
Yeah?
When did it happen, do you know?
Not exactly. They've been here quite a while. Oh, about an hour, anyway. Can't find a medical examiner, and they can't do a thing about moving them till they do. Hey, Fred, wait till the editorials tomorrow night, huh?
You got back in a hurry. What's the matter?
Your theory has just been riddled. Madigan's been killed.
I don't believe...
That's what the on-the-spot experts say.
I was wrong about him. What about Nippy?
I don't think your brother would have been there.
Were they the same ones that shot Max?
No.
How do you know?
Cars were parked solid at the curb, and Madigan was too close to them. He couldn't have been shot from the street like Max was. Do you think Nippy would go to your place?
No, he wouldn't go there. That'd be the first place they'd look.
The first place who'd look?
I don't know why I said that. Yes, I do. You're thinking the same thing, aren't you? That I told him what I was afraid of and warned him.
That crossed my mind. But I don't care who I can send in for Madigan's killing as long as I can go home. You seem to be the closest suspect.
You're not serious.
You've given yourself a motive. As far as I know, you were with him last.
I wasn't. He left the apartment.
If that's true, you've got nothing to worry about.
What do you mean? What do you want me to do?
Go with me and we'll both make a statement to the police.
You think I'm afraid to, don't you?
I don't know what to think about you.
Yes, you do. Because you found me in a mess like this, you think I'm as rotten as everybody else. I haven't been. But now I will be to protect myself.
Well, how badly do you need protection?
I know how the police are. They're just like you. They don't care either who they pull in for Jack's death. You tell me to go with you and make a statement. The police would love that. They'd love to count the whole thing off to jealousy or being afraid of Jack, wouldn't they? Wouldn't they?
Ah, you don't touch me. I don't care what they'd like.
Well, they would. It'd be much better to take me than to be laughed at because a star witness was killed right under their noses.
We can call them and find out.
No. It's easier to be rotten. I'll give you my brother. He is at my place.
How do you know?
I talked to him on the phone. He said he'd wait there until he heard from me again.
Okay. I'll go over there. But I want you to come with me.
Why? Haven't I done enough? Why do I have to see him?
Come on. I don't want to lose you in case Nippy isn't there. I'll do it. Give me the key. Vivian? Answer him.
Yes, Nippy.
It's going to work, Vivian. It's going to be a... Who's he? An insurance dick?
That's right, Nippy.
What
What are you doing here? Why'd you bring him, Viv?
He made me do it.
I asked her to make a choice between giving herself up for Madigan's killing or giving me you.
Nippy,
Put the gun away, Nippy. You've done enough. Is what he says true?
he made me do it. He would have taken me to the police. You know what they would have done to me. But it's all right, Nippy. You can still work it out.
Get away from me. She's wrong. You couldn't work it out, but you may do yourself some good by giving yourself up. Why did you do this, Vivian? Did you want to get rid of me, too?
Oh, don't say that. You don't have
What
to
are
let
you going
him...
to do if you get rid of me? Who's going to take care of you? Who's going to find more Jack Madigans for you to play with?
Nippy, don't.
Who's going to do the job for you when you get fed up and afraid to tear yourself loose?
You don't have to let him take you, Nippy. I know you could take care of it when he got here.
Is she worth it, Nippy? There wouldn't be a chance to count me off to a gang killing.
You don't have to be afraid of him.
I'm not.
Then take him and get away.
Not him. I'm afraid of you, Vivian. You're going with me. Stay away from her.
Nippy, let go.
And stop fighting. I wouldn't hurt you.
You will. Go, Nippy. Let me go.
Now, watch it, Dollar. Don't try it. Let go of it. Let go of it. No. Vivian, get it. I should have let him take you. Give me the police. Where can I find... Oh, there you are, Stroll.
Ah, good morning, Mr. Dollar. I read about it in the paper. They're holding the girl?
Yeah, as accessory. And I wouldn't advise your going her bail.
No, I certainly won't. I've had trouble enough with this group.
You know, you didn't make it easy for me with that phony description.
Yeah, I know. That description. It was given to me by Madigan's boys. I should have checked it. But don't worry, a mistake like that won't happen again.
None of your mistakes will happen to me again.
Huh?
You'll understand what I mean, Stroll, when you get my bill. Expense account item 8, same as item 2. Item 9, miscellaneous, $2,500. Expense account total, $2,720. Remarks? I'm holding my retaining fee until this matter is settled. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and is written by Gil Dowd with music by Wilbur Hatch. Edmund O'Brien may soon be seen in the Paramount Pictures production Warpath. Featured in tonight's cast were Sidney Miller, John Daner, Clayton Post, Jeanette Nolan, and John McIntyre. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is transcribed in Hollywood by Jaime Del Valle. This is Dan Coverly inviting you to join us next week at this time when we will again bring you Edmund O'Brien as...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
How's for trying to sing it again tonight? $5,000 in cold hard cash and $10,000 in fine prizes are waiting for the CBS listener who can solve the Phantom Voice mystery. Dan Seymour will be on hand with those coast-to-coast phone calls, and Alan Dale, Eugenie Baird, Bob Howard, and the Riddlers will be making the music. And remember, there's many a fine prize for solving the tuneful little riddle songs that lead to the Phantom Voice mystery. It's an hour of fun and music to entertain you and perhaps pay off. Every Saturday night on most of these same CBS stations, hear Sing It Again. And now stay tuned for Vaughn Monroe's Caravan, which follows immediately on most of these same CBS stations. This is CBS, where Hopalong Cassidy rides every Saturday night, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
From Hollywood, it's time now for Edmund O'Brien as
Johnny Dollar.
We're ready on your call to Boston. Go ahead, please.
Hello?
Yes?
Mr. Semplin? This is Johnny Dollar.
Johnny Dollar? I don't believe I remember you, Mr. Dollar.
Well, we've never met. Your company hired me here in Hartford to investigate the Joan Sebastian death.
Oh? It's odd that they didn't advise me.
Well, they probably will. I called you to find out the name of the officer in charge of the case, if I could.
It's Lieutenant DeRosa.
DeRosa. Do you happen to know what their theory is, if any?
Theory? I don't think they've arrived at a definite theory.
Still a toss-up between murder and suicide, huh? Okay, Mr. Semplin. I'll be in touch.
Edmund O'Brien in a transcribed adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account. America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Corinthian Life Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Joan Sebastian matter. Expense account item 1, $175 phone call to Boston, advising your manager there of my assignment. Item 2, $28 car rental and mileage from my Hartford apartment to police headquarters, Boston.
What's the matter, Dollar? Don't you trust us?
Well, it's not up to me to mistrust you, Lieutenant. These insurance people get uneasy when there's a choice between suicide and murder, unless the murder motive is the policy.
And you don't think there's a chance of that?
I wouldn't say definitely not, but the Sebastian girl made her mother her beneficiary, and her mother's an invalid in a rest home.
Did you know the mother has taken up with an old flame?
No, I didn't.
Oh, yeah. Goes to see her 3 times a week. Crazier things have happened. I'll get the file for you. Sit down. Now, this is all we've got so far, pending the coroner's inquest and the autopsy report. Here's a photo of where she was found.
Shallow water. That's the bridge?
Uh-huh. She was lying right about there. But I don't think you have to worry about suicide, Dollar. As far as I'm concerned, it wasn't.
I'll buy that, too. I wouldn't say this bridge is a suicide type. It's too low.
Yeah. And there's another thing. I've been on the force for more years than I like to count, and I've run into my share of suicides. But I've never known a woman to do it that way without taking off her coat.
Oh?
Yeah, usually shoes, too. I've learned that's part of a generally accepted pattern.
The Sebastian girl didn't fit the pattern, huh?
Yeah, here's the way she looked. Coat on, belt still tied. Shoes. Her purse is still missing. We're searching the stream for it.
How old was she?
21.
She was a beautiful girl.
Yeah, I noticed that. I try not to, but with her, I couldn't help it.
How much questioning have you done, Lieutenant?
Oh, not as much as we'll do after the inquest.
When'll that be?
Day after tomorrow. Do you want anything more here?
No, thanks.
I'll give you the background we have on her. It's in my office.
I won't bother you anymore, Lieutenant DeRosa. Besides, I like to dig up backgrounds myself. I know them better if I do. Thanks a lot for your cooperation. I drove out to the stream where they'd found the girl's body, and there chalked up another point against her death being a suicide. The bridge from which she had dropped was a good 4 miles from town. On the assumption that she'd been brought there in a car, the placement of a body in regard to the 2 lanes on the bridge made it look as if the car was going toward Boston, not away from it. 5 minutes later, I was heading the same way.
Hello?
Miss Mary O'Neill?
Yes?
The manager suggested I come up. He told me you shared this apartment with Joan Sebastian.
That's right. Who are you?
My name's Dollar. I'm from her insurance company. I'd like to talk to you about her if I could.
Well, I suppose so, but there's nothing I can do now. This is the biggest shock I've ever had. I always said there'd be trouble. But I never thought she'd do anything like this.
Maybe she didn't.
What's that supposed to mean?
Well, there are signs that say maybe she didn't commit suicide.
There are?
Do you think she had any reason to?
Well, that's what I said. I never thought she would. Sit down. Any place.
Thanks.
Poor little Joan. What does it mean?
I'm not sure.
Did you say you expected trouble?
Oh, yeah, I kept telling her. It was the way she went, like she couldn't live fast enough, like there wasn't time to get everything done. She'd been like that ever since she got rid... I mean, her mother went into that hospital. Johnny was all tied down taking care of her before.
What could have caused the trouble?
Well, I'm not saying she was wrong or anything, but... Well, there were too many men.
I imagine that was easy for her.
Sure was. Too easy.
Do you mind telling me who they were?
Well, I don't know. Only about one. Harold Corey. He's gone with it the longest.
Harold Corey.
Yes, he drives for the North American van lines. Sometimes he goes way out to the West Coast. And, well, while he was gone, Joni didn't stay home and catch up on her reading, if you know what I mean.
I think I do.
She went out with a different guy almost every night. I didn't pry, but she never tell me who they were. You think somebody killed her, don't you?
Would you help me try to find out?
What could I do?
You didn't want to pry, but I get paid to. I'd like to look at her things.
Well, I suppose it's my duty, sort of, isn't it?
In a way, yeah. But I can't force you to.
Oh, I know it's the thing to do. Some of her drawers are locked, but I'll show you what I can.
I started on the locked dresser drawers. They gave up and opened after a brief struggle, but contained on the whole things that might normally be locked up because of their value. Imported perfumes, expensive lingerie, and some jewelry. The only thing that looked as if it might have been hidden for the sake of secrecy was under the jewel box. It was a gold key, a functional house-type key, but with meaning added because the head of the key was heart-shaped. It hung from a fine gold chain.
Well, I never saw that before. Never saw the perfume before either, but I smelled it.
That's a few $100s worth of scent. And the rest of it was Joan used to such expensive things?
Well, not that I know about. Harold Corey sure couldn't shell out that kind of money. That heart-shaped key. It's cozy.
I'd like to keep it if I could.
Oh, I don't know about that. After all, it isn't mine. I might get into trouble.
You won't, I promise you. I'm working with the police on this thing. I want to find out where it was made if I can and who ordered it.
Oh, I get it. Sure, I wouldn't stop you from doing that, even if I could.
North American van lines.
I wonder if I could get some information about a driver of yours, Harold Corey. I phoned his home and couldn't get him. Is he out of town?
Just a second. Yeah. Harold Corey's on a run to Philadelphia.
Oh? When's he due back?
He's due in tonight, about 3 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Thanks very much. Expense account item 3, $7, drinks and dinner after I checked into the Bristol Hotel. Item 4, a nickel, phone call to Joan Sebastian's employer. Edward Hollis was at home and would see me.
Come into the living room, Mr. Dollar. We may as well be comfortable.
It's nice of you to see me, Mr. Hollis. I thought it'd be better to do it this way rather than bother you at work.
Of course, and I appreciate it. The atmosphere at the office has been gloomy enough. Oh, this is Mrs. Hollis, Mr. Dollar.
Oh, how do you do?
Quite well, thank you. I didn't know the poor girl, but it's a dreadful thing.
Yes, I'm afraid it is.
Simply don't understand. A young girl like that with everything to live for.
Well, it may be even worse than that.
Worse? How could it be worse?
It looks more and more like her death was not a suicide.
Oh. Mr. Dollar.
I didn't mention it on the phone. The police think it was murder, though, and so do I. I thought it'd be better to save the blow until I get out here. You know, murder's pretty messy.
Well, this is a shock. I suppose I could be dragged into a courtroom along with everybody else who knew her.
Edward.
Beatrice, you run along upstairs. There's no reason for your going through this.
All right, Edward. I think I'd rather. Good night, Mr. Dollar.
Good night. I'm sorry, but it couldn't be helped.
Of course it couldn't. I understand.
I'll make this as fast as possible, Mr. Hollis. I don't know how much you knew about Joan Sebastian's private life.
I knew nothing. I have a number of girls in the office, and it's been my philosophy to remember that not too long ago, I was as young as they are. As long as they do their work well, I ask no questions. As a matter of fact, I have no right to.
Sure. From what I've gathered, she was mixed up emotionally. She hadn't had much freedom because of an invalid mother she took care of.
Well, I did know that.
When the mother went to a hospital, Joan began to make up for lost time. She led her friends to believe that she ran around with a lot of men. But I don't believe that.
Oh?
I think it was one man. Would you give me the names of the girls she worked with? I'd like to talk to them and find out if something may have come out over lunch or cocktail.
Yes, I'd rather my staff wasn't upset too much, but I'll tell you. You'll want to question them separately?
That's right.
And I could give you the names now, but if you'll phone me at the office in the morning, I'll give you their addresses and phone numbers.
That would help.
Good. You can call any time after 9:30.
I called the next morning and got a list of 6 feminine names, which I pocketed for later reference. And at 10:30, I was at the home of Harold Corey, a ground-floor apartment on Hemingway Street.
Yeah, who is it?
My name is Dollar.
Come later, will you? I don't want to talk to anybody right now.
I'm an insurance investigator. I want to talk to you about Joan Sebastian.
Who have you talked to? Why did she do it?
She didn't.
What do you mean? It's a mistake?
In a way, yeah. It's murder.
Murder? You're crazy.
Am I?
Oh, maybe you are. She'd never kill herself, would she? She had no reason to.
When did you see her last?
Night before I left for Philadelphia.
When was that?
2 nights ago, Tuesday. I left at 5 Wednesday morning.
She was found Wednesday morning.
What are you driving at, mister?
When did you learn that she was seeing somebody else when you were out of town?
Didn't know she was.
Look, Corey, I'm not tossing suspicions around to see how they bounce off you. You're in a bad way. Do you know that?
You're telling me you think I killed her? Me? I loved her. I wanted to marry her.
That's a motive, not an alibi.
Get out of here, will you? Leave me alone.
You aren't helping yourself with this act. You're making it worse.
Get out of here before I do have a murder to answer for. Get out. Get out!
Lieutenant DeRosa.
This is Dollar, Lieutenant.
Hey, I've been kicking myself for not getting your hotel yesterday.
Well, I didn't have one then, but I got a few things to pass along to you now.
Well, if it's the Sebastian thing, save him.
What do you mean?
It's suicide after all.
How come?
Autopsy report. There was concussion from that drop from the bridge, but that wasn't the cause of death.
Now, wait a minute.
Cause of death was from carbon monoxide. It looks like she pulled the suicide where it would embarrass somebody, and they tossed her in the creek to get her out of the way. Hello? You still there, Dollar?
Yeah, I'm still here. This is where I came in.
We'll return you to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, in just a moment. But first, one of radio's greatest stars has returned to CBS The Stars Address. He's Frank Sinatra. Frank will be here every Sunday afternoon for a full hour of songs, comedy, and commentary on popular music. The Frank Sinatra Show is a part of CBS's new lineup of entertainment on Sunday afternoons. Join CBS every Sunday afternoon, won't you? Now, with our star, Edmund O'Brien, we return you to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Come in.
Desk sergeant said you were waiting for me.
Oh, yeah. I told him you'd be showing up. Sit down, Dollar. You didn't seem to like the latest development.
Well, I've been working from other directions. Give it to me again, will you?
Well, here's the autopsy report. Death by asphyxia caused by carbon monoxide, agent unknown. Probably automobile engine exhaust. That's the most popular these days.
Do you believe this, Lieutenant?
I believe what's on the report.
And how did you say she got into the river?
I said maybe she committed suicide somewhere so that somebody would get involved. Maybe in the driveway of somebody who didn't want to get involved. To get rid of her, she was probably moved to the stream. What's the matter? Don't you like that?
What else does the report say?
Oh, symptoms of severe concussion.
I thought you'd be happy with this suicide evidence.
The insurance company hired me to dig up facts. If it was suicide, all right. But if it wasn't, they want to know that, too. And I don't think it was.
Why not?
Well, from what I've learned, she wasn't the type. She liked to be alive, and she played it hard enough to leave some motives lying around. Jealousy, for one.
That boyfriend of hers?
Ah, you know about him, then.
Yeah, Corey, isn't it? A truck driver?
That's right. And then there's this. Look.
What's this unlock?
I wish I could tell you. It was given to her by somebody. I'd like to know who. Would you put a couple of men on it, find out where it was made? I could do it, but I think the police can get it done faster.
All right, Dollar. I'll stick my neck out that far. I'm under orders, you know that. I have to be assigned before I can investigate.
Yeah, sure.
But I'll take your story upstairs and see what the chief says. Let me know what else you find.
I will. Say, do you have the address of the old flame you mentioned? The mother's friend?
Still like to settle for fraud, would you? The desk sergeant will give you his address. His name's Paul Anderson.
You Mr. Anderson?
I am.
I'm from Joan Sebastian's insurance company. Wonder if you'd spare me a few moments.
Why, yes, I suppose so. Come in. I didn't know she had a policy.
She did. $25,000 to go to her mother.
I see.
Her death has been classed as a suicide, which voids the policy. The 2-year self-destruction clause is still in effect.
And that's a pity.
Why'd you say that?
Well, it's the least she could do for poor Mildred.
That's her mother?
Yes, an extremely young mother who has almost ruined her life for that girl.
I didn't know that.
Daughter was born when Mildred was only 17. She was left to care for the child herself. I helped as much as I could.
How well did you know the girl after she grew up?
Why, I was a friend of her mother's. Why do you ask?
Which one did you know first?
I don't see what this has to do with the
You
matter.
don't have to answer.
I don't want you to misunderstand. There's nothing to be hidden. I suppose it is unusual. I did meet Joan first. But when she took me to her house and I met her mother, I realized that Joan was, well, no more than a cheap little opportunist. The complete opposite from her mother. As I say, I suppose it is unusual.
That doesn't make any difference. Point is that you dropped the girl in favor of her mother. Is that it?
It wasn't the gross situation you evidently wish it had been. I realized Mildred's condition and the lack of care. I knew she needed someone, and I did what I could for her.
Did you send her to the rest home?
I did. Now, look here. This has gone far enough. You asked me these questions for one reason, so that you can make your own conclusions, haven't you?
I didn't know it showed.
It does. Think I sent Mildred to the home to get her out of the way, don't you? That is not the case. You can think what you like. Go ask Mildred if you care to.
I won't bother her. Do you know anything about a gold key that Joan had?
A gold key? No, I don't know anything about a gold key. I've known very little about Joan all these past months. I could have told you that she was headed toward a bad end a long time ago. Now she's reached it. There's no one to blame but herself.
It was 4 p.m. then, and at 5, I was standing in front of the North American Band building on Columbus Avenue as Harold Corey backed a big rig into a parking area and headed for a quick-order restaurant. Hello, Corey.
What this time?
Dispatcher tells me you're going out on another run. Pretty short layover, isn't it?
That's right. I asked for it. I figured driving, I'd get my mind off this thing. What do you want?
Do you know how she died?
I read about it. Carbon monoxide.
Do you still think it couldn't have been suicide?
She's dead. That's as far as I can think.
You knew about Paul Anderson, didn't you?
What about Paul?
That he might have been more interested in Joan than he was in her mother?
I suppose you're just doing a job, aren't you? What you say is true. I didn't know about it. If I had known about it, I would have gone after him, not Joan. I can't take any more, mister.
Look, I don't enjoy it either, Corey. Like you say, I'm just doing a job. After questioning the 6 girls who had worked with Joan Sebastian, I was still nowhere. None of them knew anything about her private life. But the next morning, the police located a goldsmith who said he remembered making the key.
The police told me you might come in, Mr. Dollar. No trouble at all. We're happy to oblige.
Good. You've seen the key?
Yes, the officer showed it to me. Oh, friendly young man.
I have it with me. You're sure you made it?
Oh, yes, positive. See here, I'll admit to a quaint conceit. You see here? Potted scroll? See the letters?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, CS.
My initials, Cedric Foss.
Oh.
But I haven't the faintest recollection who I made it for. I told that young officer that, too. I don't even remember when. Oh, there's so much work, you know.
Well, maybe I can help you. It would have been between 7 and 8 months ago. You keep any kind of record?
Oh, of course I do. I'm bound to. A matter of law. 7 or 8 months should have... let me see. That would be November, October, September.
7 would be March. 8 would be February.
Oh, yes, of course. Here we are. Frankly, I'm intrigued. How many of my items may have been involved with tragedy? Who knows? Perhaps I'm a curse.
I was hoping you'd be a cure for this one.
Well, I hope so. You wouldn't know what week or day?
Oh, I'm afraid not.
Oh, my. Oh, my. February wasn't a very good month, was it? Post-holiday slump. Reset, change rings high, set opals. Dreadful stuff. What? No. It's much too small. Key for a jewel box. Well, let me see. March. Yes, engraved spoon, reset, repair, place. Here it is. Door key in gold, March 17th.
What name?
Do not deliver. Will call J.E. Carter.
J.E. Carter.
Does that help?
No, not a bit. Do you remember anything about him?
No, paid in cash. Wait, now, that was the day Mrs. Brand brought the baby shoe in for placing. She's the councilman's wife. I remember that. It was snowing.
That was the day it was ordered,
Yes, now, wait a minute. It was modeled from a plain old cast house key.
Uh-huh.
I cannot picture him. But I'd done some apartment keys, and he said this was for a cottage.
Outside of town?
It was a surprise for his wife, someplace on the bay. I remember that because of the hideous weather, and I could just feel that wind coming through one of those summer cottages.
Now, do you think you'd recognize him if you saw him again?
Well, I can't say until I do. I could try.
Well, we may have to call on you then. Thanks. Thanks a lot. I think you've helped.
How'd you make out with that fussy little man, Dollar?
We found the day the key was ordered, and he remembered a few things because a councilman's wife came in the same day.
Why?
Well, the customer, Carter was the name he used, mentioned a cottage on the bay. Now, that's east, and the girl's body was found northwest of here. I think she was dumped from a car coming toward Boston from out there. So I think the cottage is in that direction.
Deduction, you.
Look, if I were going to dump a body, I wouldn't carry it across 2 traffic lanes, would you?
I'm being paid to think about another case. I couldn't sell the murder pitch upstairs. But I tried, and I'll buck for a promotion if you're right and upstairs is wrong.
I don't suppose you could earn that promotion by assigning some men to cover that section.
Huh? Oh, not a chance. That's county. Division of responsibility.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And I, for one, wouldn't be surprised to know how many people have died because of that division of responsibility. Expense account item 4, $35 mileage covering a 2.5-day search of real estate offices northwest of Boston. Object, a cottage rented a few days before March 17th by a man possibly using the name J.E. Carter. It was morning to night legwork, but on the afternoon of the 3rd day, it paid off. I found an agent who had rented a cottage to a J.E. Carter. She took me out, but before we went into the place, I noticed a lean-to garage marked up by plenty of tire tracks. Inside, I found a stained rug, among other things.
Well, Mr. Dollar, I've always said I personally vouch for the people I do business with.
You never know, do you?
I should say you don't. You want to go now?
I think I've seen enough. Let me lock it. I want to see if this key fits.
It does fit.
Yeah, it sure does.
Oh, Mr. Dollar.
Hello, Mr. Hollis. May I come in?
Why, yes, of course. Come in. Well, I didn't expect you to come back.
Didn't you, Mr. Hollis? You thought you'd get away with this, huh?
What did you say?
Well, now, there's no reason to be clever with each other, Mr. Hollis. I know you killed her. You rented a cottage out beyond Mystic River. You used the name J.E. Carter when you bought the gold key.
I did that?
I'm afraid you did.
Come into the other room. Yes, you're right, I did. I became infatuated with her. If you'd known her, you'd understand. I realized last week that it had to stop, and I told her. She had been going with that young Corey boy. I told her that even if I was single and eligible to marry, I would advise her to hang on to him, someone her own age.
That was last Tuesday night?
Yes. She left the cottage, and I heard her drive off. Or at least I thought I did. When I went out, I learned what she had really done. She committed suicide in the car. You can hardly blame me for wanting to keep the secret.
No, you've been reading the papers, Mr. Hollis. Suicide and all that. I've been inside your cottage. You didn't do a very good job of cleaning up the bloodstains.
You're right, Mr. Dollar. There seems to be no longer any reason to attempt cleverness. I'll make my statement to the police.
I'll drive you down.
Thank you. How did you find out, Dollar?
There was a Wall Street Journal there, addressed to you.
Oh, I see.
Edward?
Beatrice, go upstairs.
No, Edward, I won't.
I insist, Beatrice.
What good would it do? Do what I've done because I lost you? Why should you ask me to go upstairs while I lose you again?
I forbid you to say another word.
Forbid, Edward. You have no right. I found them, Mr. Dollar. It took a long time, but I found them. She had taken him from me because she was beautiful. And I no longer am. I was waiting in the cottage, and when they came in, I struck her.
Is this true, Mrs. Hollis?
I killed her. And since there was nothing left, we carried her to the cop.
Beatrice. Beatrice, what have I done? What have I done?
Expense account item 5, $110 final bill for car rental. Item 6, $85 miscellaneous. Expense account total, $356.75. Remarks? I don't know what sticklers the Massachusetts law courts are, but Joan Sebastian was not killed by the wronged wife. She was unconscious but alive when Hollis put her in his car trunk. She died there by carbon monoxide. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and is written by Gil Dowd with music by Wilbur Hatch. Edmund O'Brien may soon be seen in the Paramount Pictures production Warpath. Featured in tonight's cast were Virginia Gregg, Howard McNear, Virginia Eiler, Wally Mayer, John Stevenson, Bill Johnstone, and Raymond Burr. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is transcribed in Hollywood by Jaime Del Valle. This is Dan Coverly inviting you to join us next week at this time when we will again bring you Edmund O'Brien as...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Stay tuned for Vaughn Monroe's Caravan, which follows immediately over most of these same CBS stations. This is CBS, where Hopalong Cassidy rides every Saturday night, the Columbia Broadcasting System.